Welcome back. We made it to day 5, multiplying fractions of whole numbers using word problems. I wanted to look at number 3. It says, at the market, Miss Wynn bought 3/4 pounds of grapes and 5/8 pounds of cherries. How many ounces of grapes did Miss Wynn buy? How many ounces of cherries did Miss Wynn buy? So I want to focus a little bit more on the first question, or I'm going to focus really quickly on the first question and then move on to the second question. But what I need to do first is I need to figure out what 3/4 of a pound is. I also need to convert that from pounds to ounces. So if you look at your charts that you were given, you can see that there are 16 ounces in a pound. So in order to find 3/4 of that, I'm going to multiply 3 times 16 and then divide by 4. Now, I don't want to do 3 times 16 off the top of my head because I really can't do that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take out the family factors. So I look at my 16, I look at my 4, and I know that 16 is a multiple of 4. So I'm going to take out my 16, I'm going to take out my 4, and I'm going to quickly do that math really quick first in my head. So 16 divided by 4, 4, 8, 12, 16. 16 divided by 4 is going to give me 4. 4 divided by 4 is going to give me 1. So now I have 3 times 4 divided by 1, or 3 times 4 over 1. And I'm going to multiply 3 times 4, which I already kind of did a little bit earlier, and I have 12. So far she has 12 ounces of grapes. Now I'm going to do the same exact process for the cherries. How many ounces of cherries did she buy? Well, it says 5/8 pounds of cherries, which I don't think is a thing, but that's okay. We'll kind of just leave it as it is right now. So 5/8 pounds of cherries, we're going to look at that and multiply 5 times 16 divided by 8. Again, I don't want to do 5 times 16 first because that's a lot of math that I have to do in the morning. Okay, which means that I'm going to take the 16 away. I'm going to take 8 away, and I'm going to find a factor of 8 that I can multiply together to get to 16. So hopefully you've found that it is 5 times 2, because 16 divided by 8 is going to give me 2. And I have an answer of 10. So she has 10 ounces of cherries that she bought. Now the next one's going to be a little bit harder, so I'm going to go through that one a little bit slower. If Mr. Phillips bought 1 3/4 pounds of raspberries. Oh, sorry, this is D. I skipped C because you should be able to figure that one out. But if Mr. Phillips bought 1 3/4 pounds of raspberries, who bought more fruit, Miss Wynn or Mr. Phillips? And how many ounces more? So I'm going to go back to my problem about Mrs. Wynn and discover, or reacquaint myself to our original problem. So the first thing they want you to do is find out how much Miss Wynn bought in total. So I'm going to take my 3/4 and I'm going to add that by 5/8. Oh, and I found that there is an equivalent fraction that I can use. So instead of 3/4, I'm going to change that to 6/8, because 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, and 4 times 2 is going to give me 8. So I have my equivalent fraction that I'm going to use because it's going to make my math a little bit easier. And I have 6/8 plus 5, 6/8 plus 5/8, which is going to give me a total of 11/8. Now I can keep that as I would like to, and then I can just kind of change Mr. Phillips's number into an improper fraction, or I can take this number and I can change it into an improper fraction. So if I take my 11 and I divide by 8, I'm going to get an answer of 1 3/8. So from here you should be able to answer the question, who bought more fruit? So the answer that's right here is for Miss Wynn, because Mr. Phillips has already been given to us. So your first answer should be that one of them bought more. You're going to have to figure that one out. Okay. So I'm going to take my number that Mr. Phillips, oops, got or bought, and I'm going to highlight that one a little bit. I'm going to change it a little bit so that way it is to 6/8. Now the reason why I changed it to 6/8 is because I had 3/4 up here and I wanted to find a number that, or a fraction, an equivalent fraction that I could use so that way I can set up my next problem. So it's going to ask how many ounces more. So I changed that to 1 6/8 because 1 6/8 is equivalent to 1 3/4. And I'm going to put that as my first number because 1 6/8 is bigger than 1 3/8. So I'm going to subtract that now. Oops, clicking in the wrong spot. Subtract that by 1 3/8 to get an answer of 3/8. I couldn't change that for whatever reason. Okay, so if I took my 1 and I subtracted it by 1, I'm going to get 0. If I have 6/8 and I subtract it by 3/8, I'm going to get a total of 3/8. So we could leave it as a fraction, 3/8 of a pound, but that's not exactly what they're asking us for. It asked us for how many ounces more. So one more step to this process. If you need a break or something like that, go ahead and take a tiny little break and get some water, come back and see me. But I'm going to keep moving on. So I'm going to take my 3/8, I'm going to multiply that by 16 because again there are 16 ounces in a pound, and I see that I'm going to set this up like I normally do. So 3 times 16 divided by 8, and that's a lot of math. That's a lot of stuff to be doing really, really quickly in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 16, I'm going to divide that by 8, and I'm going to get a different fraction, or I'm going to get a different equation coming out of that. I'm going to have 3 times 2. So 16 divided by 8 is going to give me 2. 8 divided by 8 is going to give me 1. So now I have 3 times 2 as my answer, which of course is going to give me a total of 6. So this is all it is for today. There are 6 ounces more. If you guys have any questions, please be sure to reach out to me in some way, shape, or form. Know that I'm always here for you, and I will see you guys next week. I am planning on a couple of things to have you guys do or work on, so I'm kind of excited about that. But I will still be making my videos for all of that to walk you through that process. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.